A reading from the Gospel of Matthew. An account of the genealogy of Jesus the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac, and Isaac the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers, and Judah the father of Perez and Zerah by Tamar, and Perez the father of Hezron, and Hezron the father of Aram, and Aram the father of Amminadab, and Amminadab the father of Nahshon, and Nahshon the father of Salmon, and Salmon the father of Boaz by Rahab, and Boaz the father of Obed by Ruth, and Obed the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of King David. And David was the father of Solomon by the wife of Uriah, and Solomon the father of Rehoboam, and Rehoboam the father of Abijah, and Abijah the father of Asaph, and Asaph the father of Jehoshaphat, and Jehoshaphat the father of Joram, and Joram the father of Uzziah, and Uzziah the father of Jotham, and Jotham the father of Ahaz, and Ahaz the father of Hezekiah, and Hezekiah the father of Manasseh, and Manasseh the father of Amos, and Amos the father of Josiah, and Josiah the father of Jeconiah and his brothers at the time of the deportation to Babylon. And after the deportation to Babylon, Jeconiah was the father of Salathiel, and Salathiel the father of Zerubbabel, and Zerubbabel the father of Abiud, and Abiud the father of Eliakim, and Eliakim the father of Azor, and Azor the father of Zadok, and Zadok the father of Achim, and Achim the father of Eliud, and Eliud the father of Eleazar, and Eleazar the father of Mathan, and Mathan the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom Jesus was born, who is called the Messiah. So, all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations, and from David to the deportation to Babylon, 14 generations, and from the deportation to Babylon to the Messiah, 14 generations. I won't ask you to repeat that back, but it's a pity. It's the only time in the church's year that we hear these opening verses of the Gospel of Matthew. By and large, genealogies don't play well, whether it's on camera like this or in a live service. People become nervous about getting those names wrong, and by and large people seem to doze off with just a little bit of boredom, which might in some ways be understandable when we are presented with a text such as that. But it's a text that needs to be explored with just a little bit more depth. One thing which you might have picked up was the mathematical neatness in all that. 3 lots of 14 generations taking us from Abraham back in the mists of time, back really in prehistory, from Abraham neatly to King David, and then to the great exile in Babylon, and then to Jesus the Messiah. Well, that may be just a little bit specious in terms of historical accuracy. There's clearly something very important about 3 lots of 14. I'm not going to go into all the details in a very brief little thought for the day style sermon such as this, but those numbers were significant to people who liked to look for mystic meanings in numbers. 3 lots of 14 says something very significant about Messiah. It's lost on us, but it wouldn't have been lost to the people to whom Matthew was preaching and teaching. And those names, they are an odd collection of names. You might have noticed there were some women in there. Now, genealogies did not, in the main, bother with details about who the mother was. This was very much a paternal way of looking at history because, of course, in this culture, men had all the authority and women had none. And yet there were the names of some women there. And some of the names are Gentile names. Some of the names are people of, shall we say, just slightly questionable stories and lifestyles. Go and read up, for instance, about Rahab, who had, I suppose you might say, a colourful life, not one that you'd necessarily put into a Sunday school class. And we heard the reference to Ruth and Boaz. Now that's a beautiful story, but it's a story of an outsider. Ruth's a Moabitess. She's not part of the family tree that you would expect to hear recited about somebody who is lined up with figures like Abraham, the great patriarch, and the ultimate King David. Matthew is saying a lot here. He's saying it in a way which may not be entirely easy to access to our ears, but the way he is telling the theology of history, the theology of genealogy, Matthew is making some very important points about the fact that Jesus, this very Jewish Messiah, born in a Jewish milieu with an extraordinary family tree, Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God for the world and all its peoples, whoever they might be, male or female, great or small. This is a radical message about God doing something that would have felt very unusual, God being very thoroughly inclusive. It's a charism, a wonderful charism, that the Episcopal Church, by and large, has become a church that preaches great inclusivity. Our current presiding bishop is a man of colour. He was preceded by a woman. We do leadership in ways that are encouraging and exciting. I'm recording this before the election of the 13th Bishop of Chicago, but that electoral slate is also one that speaks of inclusivity in a wonderful, vibrant and exciting way. The Advent hope realised in Jesus the Messiah is an extraordinary one. It turned the world upside down when it happened, and it has the power and the potential to do that again today. Matthew wanted to make sure that the people who heard his rendition of the good news understood that right from the very beginning, from the very roots of the story of the good news. That genealogy might make us nod off or scratch our heads, but Matthew knew what he was doing to tell the story of the good news. And now it's our turn to go and tell that story in the most powerful way that we can manage. Amen.